Yo, what up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Pnoid News. You know, on this channel, we started off, in like the manosphere type of mentality, right? Having these real conversations about women and things of this nature. Well, today I'm gonna give you some red meat for the carnivores, right? It's important that sometimes I hand some red meat to my brothers and shit. I bring you some interesting things, right? This here is an article about the fertility rate, jaw-dropping global crash in children being born. Let's go over this, right? Because a lot of individuals don't understand what's going on yet, so I'm gonna educate motherfuckers, right? The world is ill prepared for the global crash in children being born, which is set to have a jaw-dropping impact on society, say researchers. Falling fertility rates mean nearly every country would have shrinking populations by the end of the century. And 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their populations half by 2100. Countries will also age dramatically, which with as many people turning 80 as there are being born. What's going on? The fertility rate, average number of children a woman gives birth to, is falling. The number falls below approximately 2.1, and the size of the population starts to fall. In 1950, when women were having an average of 4.7 children in their lifetime, researchers at the University of Washington Institute Medical Health Metrics Evaluation show global fertility rates nearly half to 2.4 in 2017, and their study published in The Lancet projects it'll fall by 1.7 by 2100. Right, here's where we are, right? So, as a result, the researchers expect the number of people on the planet to peak at 9.7 billion around 2064 before falling down to 8.8 billion in the end of the century. That's a pretty big thing. Most of the world is transitioning to a natural population decline. Researcher Professor Michael Murray told the BBC, "I think it's incredibly hard to think this through and recognize how big a thing this is. It's extraordinary. We'll have to reorganize societies." And let me keep it 100, all right? I've told y'all, capitalism, socialism, communism, none of these things worked without infinite motherfucking growth. None of this works without more people being born to pay more taxes to, give out more social benefits to old fucks. It doesn't work. None of this works anymore. It's all over with. Everything's over. The whole of your entire existence as a fucking country is up for grabs at this point because none of it works. All right, so Japan's population is projected to fall from a peak of 128 million in 2017 to less than 53 million by the end of the century. Holy shit. Italy is expected to see an equally dramatic population from 61 to 28 million. Jesus fucking Christ. There are 23 countries, which also include Spain, Portugal, Thailand, and South Korea, expected to see their population more than half. That is jaw-dropping. Professor Christopher Murray told me. China, currently the most populous nation in the world, is expected to peak at 1.4 billion in 4 years' time before nearly halving to 732 million by 2100. India will take its place. And actually, by recent numbers, that number might be hit by 2050. Legit. Because actually here recently they found out they were lying about how bad things were. Shit's way worse in China than motherfuckers think. The UK is predicted to peak at 75 million in 2063 and fall to 71 million by 2100. Right? And you see, the USA is supposed to actually have more people, because we bring in immigrants and shit. Japan, Nigeria is actually going to be one of these countries that's going to explode. However, this is likely to be a truly global issue with 183 out of 195 countries having a fertility rate below the replacement level. Why is this a problem? You might think this is great for the environment. A smaller population will reduce carbon emissions as well as deforestation for farmland. That will be true except for the inverted age structure, more old people than young people, and all the uniformly negative consequences of an inverted age structure, says Professor Murray. The study projects a number of under fives will fall from 681 million in 2017 to 401 million in 2100. The number of 80-year-olds will soar from 141 million to 866 million in 2100. Professor Murray adds, it will also create an enormous social change. It makes me worried because I have an 8-year-old daughter and I wonder what the world will be like. I feel like I got a bunch of kids too. I have no idea. Who pays tax in a massively aged world? Who pays for the health care of the elderly? Who looks after the elderly? Will people be able to retire from work? We need a soft landing, argues Professor Murray. Are there any solutions? Countries including the UK have used migration to boost their population and compensate for falling fertility rates. However, this stops being the answer once nearly every country's population is shrinking. We will go from a period where it's a choice to have open borders or not, to frank competition for migrants, as there won't be enough, argues Professor Murray. Some countries will have tried policies such as enhanced maternity and paternity leave, free child care, financial incentives, and extra employment rights, but there is no clear answer. Sweden has dragged its fertility rate up from 1.7 to 1.9. Basically, what they did was they moved the time that women were going to have a baby upwards, and then it falls again. They've done this a bunch of times. That have put significant effort into tackling the baby bust have struggled. Singapore has a fertility rate around 1.3. Actually, it's lower than that. It's at like 1. Right? Professor Murray says, I find that people laugh it off. They can't imagine it could be true. They think women will just decide to have more kids. Well, that's not true, right? Legitimately. So the answer is de-urbanization, right? Because legitimately, the most urbanized countries are the ones who have the worst of, this glut of babies and shit. The lowest birth rates. The places with the absolute lowest birth rates in the world are like Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, China at this point. I'm trying to think here. The UAE, right? Places with all cities, right? There's like no farmland whatsoever, right? There's like no place for individuals to live that isn't a city. And those places are the worst off. And everywhere that is industrialized and people have moved to the cities, you have just destroyed your fucking birth rate. That's what happened. People don't have enough space to have kids. People don't have enough ability to feel safe to have kids. And the cost of living is so fucking high from living in these cities, that legitimately you can't afford to have fucking kids. This is kind of the problem. You'd need to stretch out. Problem is, too many of us can't just stretch the fuck out. Everybody has to go to work to be able to earn a living to pay for fucking taxes and things of this nature. All right. How do countries fight? All right. Anyway, the research is warned against undoing the progress on women's education and access to contraceptions. Right. It said responding to population decline is likely to become an overriding policy and concern in many nations, but must not compromise efforts to enhance women's reproductive health or progress on women's rights. Why is that? Because a lot of this is actually, again, though, when women go to work, they can't have kids. It's either work, career, or you have kids. One of the two. Because, what the fuck is the point of having a kid if you're not going to be the fuck around? You're going to hand them off to somebody else. And daycare is expensive. Kind of the deal. The population of sub-Saharan Africa is expected to triple in size to more than 3 billion people by 2100. And that study says Nigeria will become the world's second biggest country with a population of 791 million. Professor Murray says we will have many more people of African descent in many more countries as we go through this. Global recognition of this challenge around the racism is going to be all the more critical if there are a large number of people in African descent in many countries. What I tell you, man, legitimately, the reason why they're anti-racist isn't because it's, a nice thing to do. Isn't because it's the proper thing to do. It's because of the fact that they want more fucking people to be able to work for them. Has nothing to do with anything the fuck else. It's fucking bullshit. Why 2.1 is a fertility threshold? You might think a number should be 2.0. 2 parents have 2 children, so the population stays the same size. But even with the best healthcare, not all children survive to adulthood. Also, babies are ever so slightly more likely to be male. It means the replacement figure is 2.1 in developed countries. Nations with higher childhood mortality also needs a higher fertility rate. What do the experts say? Professor Abraham Abouakar, University College London, said if these predictions are even half accurate, migration will become a necessity for all nations and not an option. To be successful, we need fundamental rethink of global politics. Distribution of work-age populations will be crucial to whether or not humanity prospers or withers. I'd prefer wither at this point. You know what I'm saying? Legitimately, I would just say fuck it, right? By the way, here's some shit. Declining marriage numbers add to China's demographic conundrum. Fewer people are getting married in China. In addition to falling birth rates, hastening the demographic crisis in the world's most populous country, according to official data. Right. So let's look at this other article that I grabbed for us because Legitimately, yo, feminists are fucking retarded. America's fertility rates are falling, and that's cause for celebration, not fear mongering. Shut up, you dumb bitch, right? We've seen too many news stories warning of economic collapse and not so subtly blaming selfish women for not having enough children. Just like in other rich countries, fertility rates in the U.S. have been falling. A lot of this decline is probably because people are waiting until they feel ready to become parents. U.S. social policy has emphasized the importance of people waiting to have children until they are older, until they are financially stable for decades. So why isn't the fact that people are delaying their financial or fertility treated like a policy success that it appears to be? Instead, we've seen many news stories bemoaning falling fertility rates, warning of economic collapse, and not so subtly blaming selfish women for not having enough children. Well, you are selfish, right? For decades, U.S. women have reported that far higher fractions of their births occurred before they wanted it, before they had as many children as they wanted, compared to women in other rich countries. As access to highly effective contraception in the U.S. has improved, this rate and the difference between our rate and the rate in similar countries has declined, and these declines have been linked to the falling fertility rates. Surely a country that prides itself on people living their lives as they see fit would see this as a success. No, I would not. Right? I see this as like, yo, literally, y'all are destroying our fucking society. But yo, it's cool, legitimately, right? Like, because my kids are gonna be able to, you know what I mean, like, yo, get whatever they want for wages because of you dumb broads. It's fucking great, right? But no, instead of this reproductive autonomy is decried as women's failing to fulfill our duty to our economy, which is both callous and ironic, since choosing when you have children, because like you're worthless at work. All right. Like nobody really wants you to go to work. Like fucking nobody wants to hire a woman, right? Except like if you're a massive conglomerate where like you can just drive down the wages of fucking dudes by hiring you worthless fucks, you know what I mean? Because you could pay you less because you're way less fucking productive. Like you're legitimately, like if you left the labor force, the American motherfucker, you'd really see like how bad the motherfucking actual wages really are, because you see how productive the fucking economy is without you, and see how much money we're not getting motherfucking paid because you're fucking there fucking the whole thing up. Put simply, there's been a widely successful campaign to convince women in the U.S. that it is our responsibility to plan our fertility. The message that we should have babies only when our lives are arranged just so, not before, and that if we plan well enough, we will be able to achieve all our aspirations. Yo, fucking Jesus. All right, I'm done. I'm done with this fucking article. I hate feminists. Anyway, yo, look, man. Tom Pease of Pnoid News. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Hit the Streamlabs link in the motherfucking description. Hit the Patreon link. Become a patron. Support this fucking content if you enjoy it. You know what it is. Like, share, and subscribe, man. Peace.